Hello champions and happy Thursday. Today we're going to learn to multiply decimals by decimals. Let's dive right into our video and get started. Let's start with a couple do now questions. First, what's 3/8 times 1/2? Well, when I multiply 3/8 times 1/2, I multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. 3/8 times 1/2 is 3/16. What's 2/5 times 4/5? Well, 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 5 is 25. 2/5 times 4/5 is 8 over 25. Let's look at a word problem. There are 20 students in math class. 2/5 of the students are girls. How many students are girls and how many students are boys? First, let's find how many students are girls. What operation could we use to find a fraction of the class? When I find a fraction of a number, I use multiplication. So I need to multiply 2/5 times 20. When I write the result of 2/5 times 20 as an improper fraction, what number do I get? Well, 2 times 20 is 40, and my denominator stays 5. The improper fraction that results is 40 over 5. What should I do now? I need to divide 40 divided by 5 to change my answer into a whole number or mixed number. What's 40 divided by 5? 40 divided by 5 is 8. So 8 students in the class are girls. If I know that there are 20 students in the class and that 8 of those students are girls, what could I do to find the number of boys in the class? I can subtract to see how many students are left over. 20 minus 8. What's 20 minus 8? 20 minus 8 is 12. Let's do one last do now question before we get into our lesson. Which of the following is the same as 2/3? Well, I know that I can write a division sentence as a fraction. 2/3 is the same as 2 divided by 3. Let's jump into today's lesson. Today we're going to talk about how to multiply two decimals. We're going to use fractions to set our rule, and then we'll get some practice. Look at the first problem, 2/10 times 7/10. How do you write 2/10 as a fraction? 2/10 is the same as 2 over 10. How do you write 7/10 as a fraction? 7/10 is the same as 7 over 10. If I multiplied the two fractions, 2 over 10 times 7 over 10, what would be my result? My result would be 14 hundredths, or 0.14. Now let's talk about how to do that just with decimal multiplication. First, I can write my numbers vertically. When I multiply decimals, I don't need to line up the decimals because my place value can change when I multiply. When I add and subtract, I still need to line them up. Now, I know that I've got tenths, hundredths, 1, 2 numbers behind the decimal. So my answer will need to have 2 numbers behind the decimal. 2 times 7 is 14, and I'm going to move my decimal once, twice. So my answer is 0 and 14 hundredths. Let's do another example. 5/10 times 9/10. I know that I'm going to have tenths, hundredths, 1, 2 numbers behind the decimal. Now multiply. When you multiply 5/10 times 9/10, what will be the result? Well, 9 times 5 is 45, and I need 1, two numbers behind the decimal. So my answer is 0 and 45 hundredths. What if I have hundredths times tenths? Well, let's write it as fractions again to show what will happen. How would I write 0.35 as a fraction? 0.35 is the same as 35 hundredths. How would I write 0.3 as a fraction? That's 3 tenths. When I multiply 35 over 100 times 3 tenths, what's the result? Well, when I multiply 35 times 3, 3 times 5 is 15, 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. So my numerator is 105. What's my denominator? Well, 100 times 10 is 1,000. To write 105 thousandths, I would write 0.105. Let's show how to do that with just decimal multiplication. I'm going to write my problem vertically. Remember, I don't need to line up my decimals when I'm multiplying, only when I'm adding or subtracting. Now, I know I've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 1, 2, 3 numbers that need to be behind the decimal. Now I can multiply like my decimal's not even there. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 more is 10. And I know that I need to put 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal. My answer is 0 and 105 thousandths. Let's try another. 4 tenths times 2 and 87 hundredths. Let's write that problem vertically. First, when I multiply these two numbers, how many digits are going to end behind the decimal? Well, I've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 1, 2, 3 numbers will be behind the decimal. Now I can multiply 4 times 287 like the decimals aren't there. Go ahead and multiply 4 times 287. What's 4 times 287? Don't place your decimal yet. 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times 8 is 32, plus 2 more is 34. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11. So I would get 1,148. Where should I place the decimal in this number? Well, I need 3 digits behind the decimal. 1, 2, 3. So my answer is 1 and 148 thousandths. Remember, count how many digits are behind the decimal, multiply like normal, and then place your decimal. Let's do one more together. 1 and 3 tenths times 4 and 2 tenths. First, before I multiply, how many digits are going to be behind the decimal? Well, I have tenths, hundredths. 2 digits will be behind the decimal in my answer. Now I can multiply like normal. First, I'm going to multiply 2 times both numbers. What's 2 times 3? It's 6. What's 2 times 1? It's 2. Now I can drop my 0 because I'm finished with my 2. What's 4 times 3? It's 12. What's 4 times 1? It's 4. Plus 1 more is 5. Now I can add my partial products. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2 plus 2 is 4. And I have 5. Now, I said 2 digits needed to be behind the decimal. So, how would I write this answer? 1 and 3/10 times 4 and 2/10 is 5 and 46/100. Now you try 3 problems. First, what's 5/10 times 7/10? 5/10 times 7/10 is 35/100. Now try another. What's 1 and 31/100 times 4/10? 1 and 31/100 times 4/10 is 524 thousandths. Now try another. What's 3 and 8/10 times 2 and 1/10? It's 7 and 98 hundredths. You've done a great job with this video. Go ahead and take your exit ticket, and then you can move to Prodigy.